Hello. Computer Science 1 again. This is video number 2. Actually, it's for me, it's video number 3. Video 1 got recorded backwards. Why would they make a video recording program where the default was to switch things around and make it look like you were writing on the whiteboard backwards? I asked you that. Okay, that's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer that. But moving right along, we need to know something about the computer hardware so that we can all speak the same language when it comes to that. Computer hardware. These are terms that we will be using throughout the course, so it would be a good idea to know what they are, huh? I'm going to fill up the whole whiteboard like I did in the first video, and almost like the first video, I'm going to start in the middle again with this. So if you're going to copy this picture, you might want to just sit and watch for a second, or you can start drawing in the middle at the top. CPU. You've heard of that. That's a computer hardware component. What else we got? CPU has, I'm going to put main inside parentheses, main memory. Because usually it's just called memory. I don't think anybody calls it main memory anymore. But there are actually all kinds of memory, as we'll find out in a little bit. And when we just say memory all by itself, that's what we mean, main memory. These together are in a box. Actually, they are physically together. If you have an old school desktop sitting on top of your computer that's not a laptop, then inside there on one board is the CPU and the main memory. Those are all closely coupled, tightly coupled. They're real close to each other. So there's not much distance between them at all. First cap lost of the module. Now, coming in from the left, I hope this is from the left in the video, we got our input devices in a box of their own. With an arrow going one way from the input devices to the CPU and the main memory, and squirting out the other side. Output devices. Like so. And down beneath the big box, this is going to be sort of a T shape here, we've got long-term storage. It's got its own abbreviation, LTS, long-term storage. I've left out arrows here. Now, these arrows here, the input devices, that's one way into the computer, into the main part of the computer, the thinking part of the computer. And the output devices, that's one way out the other end. The CPU and the main memory, there's data flowing, those zeros and ones I talked about before, those are going back and forth between the CPU and the main memory all the time. CPU has to look at main memory, see what it's supposed to do next, see what it's supposed to do it to, what the data is that's stored in memory. And main memory has arrows going back and forth between long-term storage. And they all play essential, important, unsubstitutable roles. And so that I can refer to these in greater detail, I'm going to number them. I'll actually do numbers in a different color. I would close up my marker, but our cap is gone. This is box number 1. Box number 2 will be the CPU. Box number 3, main memory. Box number 4, long-term storage. Is that the order I want to do it? It doesn't matter. And you guessed it, box number 5 is output devices. And do I have room to write about all of these things in more detail? Lower on the whiteboard? Absolutely not. But I'm going to write what I can right now and then erase it and start over again. And I probably didn't number them. I'm going to do them, let me see. I'm going to talk about these in order of increased complexity. Whoa, there's a teaser, isn't it? Number 1, that's pretty simple actually. Or so I claim, so I hope. The input devices. I'm just going to call them, whoops. I'm not going to call them that. Input devices. Good grief. The coffee is just not doing the trick. These provide, P-R-O-V-I-D-E, data, which we all know now is nothing but zeros and ones. I'm going to stop saying that. Even if it's images, even if it's sound, even if it's typing at the keyboard, whatever. It's all translated into zeros and ones on its way into the computer. So these provide data to the And I'm going to talk about the machine. Provide data to the system, the computing system. That's just sort of a grand word that's supposed to be an umbrella to cover all this stuff. They're providing data into it. Thus, they're called input devices. It's easier to just nod knowingly as we write some examples on the board. I already listed one, the keyboard. KYBD, short for keyboard. That provides zeros and ones and ABCs and everything into the computer as you're typing in. A touch screen. A touch screen on an iPad or certain Windows devices. That provides input. What else? I talked about sound and music. A camera. We could make up input, make them up. We could list input devices all day long. Keyboard, touch screen, camera. Let me see. Let's get some sound. Microphone. And I hope this is working. I won't be able to test it until the video's done. So maybe you're hearing this and maybe you're not. Maybe I'm just doing this. Yeah. Okay. Etc. There. If you have questions, here's an opportunity for me to say how this is going to operate with these asynchronous videos. If you have questions, please write them off to the side in your notes and either send me an email if it's an emergency question you got to know right away, or you can drop by during office hours, or wait, there's more. You can send me an email and request a special Zoom meeting, your own personal office hours, any of those things. I guess you could also wait until the one and only one class meeting we have per week, but with so many people, it might be hard for you to have the courage necessarily to ask your question in front of everybody. And also, it just might be hard time-wise to get all that in there. So I would say as questions come up, make a note of them, then get back to me. Email the question to me, Zoom me, come by during office hours, and I can deal with you one-on-one and clear up any confusion you have, even if I have to make up an answer. I'm good at that. What else we got? I'm going to zip over here to number 5, because that's a fairly easy one to dispose of, or so I'll claim. The output devices. These receive data from the system. Actually, I should have underlined provide. There, I'll double underline it, so it's more important than data. Receive, double underline, single underline data. New convention here. Receive data from the system. It's all about the direction of information flow. And again, these are easier to do by example. We could just about match them one-to-one with the input devices. The keyboard, that's not an output device. So I'm not going to have sending stuff back to the keyboard. The screen, well, now wait a second here. Hold up, Hula Dancer. You said the screen was an input device. Well, here's the deal. These are abstract descriptions of hardware components. And it's possible that some pieces of hardware can actually play different roles at different times. When you are touching the screen, touching buttons on there to mute the professor because you're sick of hearing his voice on the videos, then it's an input device. When you unmute it and you start hearing things, and you start seeing things move around on the screen, then it's an output device. So it's not as if we will take all the components of a computer one at a time and neatly fit them into only one shoebox up here. It could be that, well, now I'll repeat myself. It could be that as the screen here, it could be sometimes an input device, sometimes an output device. Okay. Camera, well, let's see. I guess the matching thing to the camera is the screen. So far we've got nothing but a screen. How about speakers? Oh, wait. I just thought of one. I know, companion, to go with the keyboard so it's not all by itself. The printer. And I'll put etc. before I dig a hole for myself I can't get out of. What are these? How are these different from those? Well, the role they play in the system. The input devices, all they do is provide zeros and ones into the system. The output devices, they receive zeros and ones from the system and then do something of their own. Often they have specialized computers, little Rain Man computers that can only play 2 notes on the piano. For example, the printer has a computer in it It's not a general purpose computer that you write programs for, but it has to have a computer to be able to translate that stream of zeros and ones coming in back to the letters and pictures and so forth that it actually puts on the paper when it prints something out. So even though the role of the printer in this sort of grand view of one computing system, even though the printer here would be an output device with respect to what's going on in the system as a whole, it could very well, this possibility is not excluded, it could very well be a computer in its own right. Several of these could be. So this is more describing the different roles that the components play. And let's see, do I have room for anything else up there right now? Maybe long-term storage. No, I'm going to wait on long-term storage till I get a clean board, lots of space. And you know what? I'm going to split this. This is so important. It's so big. Actually, it's more that it's so big and it takes up the whole whiteboard. I'm going to split this into a couple of videos. So that's the end of this one.